Why do we need requirements? This is what we're going to discuss in this video. So if you remember, one of the first modules, we mentioned about the relative cost of defect removal, and we mentioned that as we progress towards the end of the development life cycle, we will see an exponential increase in dealing with the problems. I mean, to deal with a particular problem in the requirements analysis phase, at an early phase of development, it's so easy. And as we progress, as we invest more into the development of the software or the system, we have to do much more to, let's say, remedy that problem or to handle that particular problem that you missed because you just messed up in the early requirements engineering or system business analysis phases or activities. So what this in fact tells us that business analysis early in the life cycle is so important. It's the basis for so many things that if you really screw up at the very beginning, at the early stages, or of the software development life cycle, which we refer as business analysis activities, you're doomed basically. So you really have to do quite a nice job if you really want your project to be a successful one. So, okay, so who needs the requirements? So I'm already mentioning that, I've already mentioned that in fact it's the basis for many other things, but who use the requirements, who need the requirements? I would say almost everyone. Almost everything that proceeds is based on requirements. Customers, to start with. So customers require the requirements or needs to understand and validate them, to check that they meet what they really need. Requirements are used as a means for communication between the users and the development team, or essentially business and IT, if you like. So they need them. Project managers. Project managers basically can't do anything without knowing exactly what needs to be built. Essentially, it's a huge dilemma right now that you have to kind of give a response, or you have to perhaps do, usually you have to make some budget estimates before knowing exactly what that software we're going to do. We'll have to find a solution for. So it's a kind of dilemma. So basically, project managers can do their accurate estimates only when you're done with the business analysis, or when you have a very good idea of what you're going to build. So it's also a very important input for project managers. So for each component, for each requirement, you have to estimate how much effort it requires and how much does this mean in terms of budget, in terms of money. Design code. If you don't know what you're going to build, then you can't just build anything. So it's a rather rational, or a kind of a no-brainer that you need to really define first of all what you need for the designer, and also particularly for the coders. So they just get that thing, and by that thing they know what they need to build. Otherwise, they don't know. Testers. Testers are interesting because many people do not know basically that the tests are basically done on the basis of two inputs. So you have something to be tested, software in this case, a software system, and in fact you can't properly test the software system without requirements. Without a definition of requirements for that particular software. So at another hand, so you need to test that particular thing against this one to understand whether it really meets the requirements. Without this, the specification of what this thing is, you can't test it. You can just do some bug analysis and that's it. If you don't know what this thing has to do, if you don't know that kind of a specification, then you can't test it. Basically, testers require them as well. In fact, test cases, as we know, definition of test cases are based on the requirements. So you basically translate the requirements into test cases. That's another issue that we'll discuss about in another module. Operation or maintenance stuff. So in fact, the requirements are also input, first of all, for user manuals. So it's all these user manuals that we all know of are some sort of a translation of your user requirements, essentially. So at the development stage, you say the system should do this and that. When it's finished, it's you just change the tense and you say, okay, this system does this and that and that, or the user should do this and this and this and that to work with the system. So it's basically again the basis for manuals, but not just that, also particularly for the maintenance stuff, or the stuff that are responsible for maintaining the system. It's a very important input. So, and these days we can't imagine of any kind of a system that does not go into a kind of sort of maintenance process. So there's always the case that you need to change some part of the software to adapt to the changing environment. And in this case, you need a specification of what this software was supposed to do in the first place and what kind of requirements now we are changing, so that we can see which design item is influenced, and based on that which code is being should change, and so on. So you need, again, the entire chain to be able to understand the implications of any kind of a change in the system. And to be able to do that, the first, let's say, part of this chain is the requirements. So again, I think I can't emphasize enough the importance of requirements for any kind of a software or any kind of a system development project or initiative. Yeah, so we'll be talking about illustration in the coming video modules. See you later.